Hello, and thank you for joining me today. So I'm just going to hop right into it and I'll explain why in a second, but the time to decide where you'll be spending the next 4 years of your life is here. Decision day. And in today's BGOC Lunch and Learn, I'm going to share a few tips on things that you can consider while you're making this decision on where you're going to literally spend the next 4 years of your time, of your talent, of your money, and of your mental capacity. In a minute, we're going to hop into it. And I'll explain some tips on how to choose the right college to attend. But before we get into all of that, I'm going to share a little bit on who I am. I'm Monica, and I am the founder and CEO of Black Girl on Campus, also known as BGOC. And here I take the overwhelm out of all things college for African American girls who will be or are first generation college students. And I've been doing that for like as long as I can remember, literally, since I myself graduated from college and I started mentoring young women. But I officially started doing BGOC work back as the business that it is now, back in November of 2017. And I started BGOC because I too was a first generation college student when I went to college. And I know I definitely, absolutely could have used the help along the way on my journey, but I really didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to look or who to ask or any of those things. And because I basically figured everything out on my own and how to do it, now as I'm several years removed from the college experience, I know that I missed out on a lot of things. I see the things that I missed out on, and I did a ton of stumbling. I know what it means. Absolutely, to be uncertain and unsure and not sure of what you need to be doing on your college journey as you're trying to get into college. Once you get to college and you're actually on the campus and things to do and how to navigate and move around. And then once you graduate and graduation is near and your professional career is like right here in front of your face, and like, what am I going to do? So what I do through BGOC is to help you feel confident, empowered, clear, and just ready to succeed as a first generation college student. So in my series here on my YouTube channel, Lunch and Learns, this is a few minutes with me. I'm doing a brief teaching. When I say brief, you will see how brief it is. So you have some time. I'm telling you, you have the time right now to sit and watch this. So it's a brief teaching on a subject, and I talk about different things. People email me about things that they want to learn about and need insight on. So I do a quick teaching and give some tips, and it's like a takeaway or two. Usually with me, it's like 3 or 4 takeaways that you can implement like right away, not something that's far down the line. Or if you're like in, 9th grade or 10th grade, these are things that you can keep in your toolbox to say, oh, I remember Monica did that lunch and learn on decision day when your time comes. But these are things for students can implement right now, either in college planning, or success as a first generation college student. The videos, again, are very quick. They're bite-sized, and they're meant to be that way. So I take the time, the 10 minutes to watch it in its entirety, get it, take your notes, and keep it pushing. So I encourage you to check out the playlist here on my channel for other videos from Lunch and Learn of topics of importance as an African-American girl who will be, or if you are, as I said before, a first-generation college student. So I'm going to hop right into it with the first tip. Tip number 1, do not agonize over this decision. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but don't. Listen to Wiz Khalifa. Worrying is like walking around with an umbrella waiting for it to rain. And that's what you're doing. If you're like, look at the girl in the picture. She is like, what am I doing? I mean, what? But I know it's easier said than done, but don't make yourself sick over this. Yes, absolutely. It's a big decision without question, but it's not one that's impossible to make. By following these steps that I'm going to share here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about like some additional resources that I have later, but by following these steps, remember everything, almost everything is fixable. So if you make a mistake and say, oh, you picked the wrong school, I mean, listen, it's fixable. And when you keep that in the front of your mind, you'll realize like, and it'll take the overwhelm out of the decision and you can make a sound decision. I mean, you don't want to make a mistake. You don't want to, I know, spend the money, you know, maybe potentially if you're like, I don't like this school anymore, lose credits. It's not the end of the world if something like that happens. So keep that in mind as you're making this decision, as you have these letters, these acceptance letters spread out around you. Do not agonize over it. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you cannot agonize over it in the next couple of slides. So I'm going to move to the next slide, but please don't agonize over it. And remember, you don't want to walk around with an umbrella waiting for it to rain. You don't want to walk around. It's bright and sunny right here where I live, right here in New York today as I'm doing this. So, you know, it's like me going outside with an umbrella like, oh my gosh, it might rain. It's not supposed to rain today. But anyhow, what's your why? What's your why? Find your why and you'll find your way. John C. Maxwell says that. Who's John C. Maxwell? Anyway, he's a #1 New York Times best-selling author. He's a coach, he's a speaker, and he has sold more than 24 million books in 50 languages. I see his quotes all over, like when I'm looking for something, like something to inspire me, something to share on my channels with students, something to share in presentations. John Maxwell always is popping up somehow, and I can see why. 24 million books. But listen, what's your why? Let's talk about your why. Why do you want to attend a specific school? Why does it stand out above the others? I mean, maybe you can create, and you probably have, but maybe you can create a list of pros and cons and really honestly ruminate on that list. What on each school's pro list is an absolute for you? I remember when I was buying my first house and the realtor was taking me around and, you know, I was like, oh, I don't like this. Oh, I don't like this. It was like in my mind, I was looking for something perfect. Let's just say from the jump street, nothing perfect exists. Perfect is not a thing. Excellent is a thing, but perfect is not. But back to my realtor, she was like, what is an absolute for you? Like, you know, I had some things like I was like, oh, I wanted to have a pool and I want the complex to have, I want to have a washer dryer and I want to have an elevator and I want to have this, da, 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 da. I had this laundry list, but we weren't seeing things that were fitting each of those. So it was like, what did you really need, Monica? What did you really want? And it came down to dedicated parking and washer dryer in my condo, because that's what I was buying. And as soon as I got clear in my mind as to what was an absolute for me, it was like we found like my perfect place, I think like maybe within the next couple of days, seriously. And I found that I wasn't losing sleep over not having the pool. I wasn't losing sleep over not having an elevator. I was on a second floor and it was an easy like walk up into my condo. All of that, it was just fine. So what is an absolute for you in college? And also, real talk, but what's on the cons list? Because all schools have cons. Again, like I just said, no, perfect does not exist. So for my alma mater, for instance, in terms of a con, like a serious con, and I am from New York, but I went to school in upstate New York where the snow is no joke sometime. And I didn't even go that far, like up by Niagara Falls. I mean, I was in Albany, but still, for me, yes, there's snow downstate, but upstate New York snow is not a joke at all. And also because it was so commonplace to have like these huge storms or squalls or whatever, just because it happened, that didn't mean that classes were canceled. So it was like, still get up and get yourself through the snow to like, you know, the main podium to get into classes. And who wants to trudge through like 2 feet of snow to get to class? But that was a con for me, but it was clearly not con enough for me to transfer or to decide not to go to Albany. And I had a great time and it was perfect. So the more you have an honest conversation with yourself, not everybody else in the ears, but an honest conversation with yourself. And yeah, sure, sometimes you definitely have to take into consideration your parents and money and different things. Absolutely. But the conversation within you, and once you've written down those lists, it'll help you whittle things down and help you make as sound of a decision as possible. I hope that makes sense and is helpful, because I know that it helps me as I make decisions. Next, kind of alluded to this 2 seconds ago, like literally go with your gut. Like, how many times has your gut lied to you? I venture to say not many, because for me, it's true. Like, my gut really honestly does not lie to me. It's when I do things that like opposite of my gut, or like I'm a little bit off. It's like, oh, well, maybe if I do it this way or whatever, that things don't go as expected, and or it takes longer to work itself out to be what it's supposed to be. So as the slide says, like, what schools like is a strong contender? You're absolute yes, you see yourself there excelling, you're thriving, you're living your best life. I mean, abundance is literally your middle name. What school's that? And honestly, what schools, despite that you applied, despite that the financial package is like on a decimal point, I mean, but at the end of the day, honestly, it just won't work for you. That's like a middle school. Like, it really is a no. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, parents, because I'm absolutely not a proponent of going into debt, like serious debt for school. Because many of my videos and blog posts talk about, like, do not go into debt as much as you can, like, you just avoid it. But I'm also honestly not a proponent of just going to a school because the math is great. The math is mathing for your family. But at the end of the day, overarchingly, everything else just isn't. Does that make sense? Like, it's like one of my mentors says, like, trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Just because like the money's great or whatever, but it's just something. You can't put your finger on it, but it's that thing. It's like the tap on your shoulder, like the little tap, not like hitting you, but a tap on your shoulder that's saying, this isn't the place. So keep that in mind. And then also, what's a maybe? What's a possible? For those of if you play spades, I learned how to play spades in college. I didn't know before I got there. But what schools were you like just seriously like not giving a second thought? Like, yeah, no. But now you're looking at them and you're like, oh, hey girl, hey, what's going on? And they become a contender as well. It's like a dark horse school that has turned out to have some intriguing options that you really should consider. Like, your gut is going to answer a lot of this for you. I mean, where will you be happy? Where do you feel you will best succeed? From like just a general, I am content, I'm glad to be here, I have zero regrets for coming to this school standpoint. And during this gut check session, you'll be able to narrow down your list prayerfully to 2 or 3 schools that you're seriously considering, to make following these steps, the steps I've shared before. And then I share others in this 11-step guide that I created. It's called Choosing the Right College, like this is called. And I'll share the link in the description box below for it, where you can gain access to just thinking about these different things to consider as you're making this. Really, it's a serious and monumental decision. But like I said earlier, nothing is not fixable. So don't get all agonized and crazy over it. And then finally, always remember that success is what you make it. Because here's one thing that I do know, you will likely find that success in life in general has less to do with the choice of like your college than it has to do with the experiences and opportunities that you encounter while in college. I'm going to say that again. Success in life across the board is not about the college you decide as much as it's the experiences and the opportunities that you curate and have while in college, coupled with, of course, personal qualities and traits. I mean, listen, Ivies are great. Absolutely, Ivies are great. But you don't really need that outside of bragging rights And then coupled with the enormous debt that's going to come with it on the back end, if of course you don't get a free ride. But again, unless that's like you are like your gut is saying, listen, you got into Cornell, listen, you got into UPenn, listen, Harvard, Yale, and that's where you really want to go, and your gut is saying, this is where I belong. Like I said in the previous tip, you got to go with your gut, and everything will figure itself out. But also remember too, employers and graduate schools are looking for outstanding skills and experience, not like some college pedigree. Albany versus Harvard, Howard versus Paul Quinn College. I mean, it's not about a name. It's all about where you will get a great education in order to succeed in your life as you imagine. And Albany did all of those things for me, even though I've said it constantly. I really wanted to go to UPenn. Didn't go there. I went to Albany. And guess what? It helped me succeed. What opportunities does a school have that'll help you toward your career goals? That's a major question. Like a mentee of mine, she wants to be a physician. In the school she attends, it's really cool. They have an on-campus ambulance service or something like that, and she volunteers with them, which makes absolute sense. And that's an awesome way for her to start learning like just about medical skills and stuff like that by giving back in her time right there on her college campus. She doesn't have to go to some hospital to do an internship. She doesn't have to go to a doctor's office. She's right there on her campus, and she's able to do that. I went to college and I wanted to be a TV newscaster at the time. I never did that, by the way. If this is your first time watching and you have no idea really what my background is, so go to my website, monicabritton.com, and you'll learn more. But who I am and my just bio and stuff. But I went to Albany thinking I wanted to be a TV newscaster, and I volunteered with the campus newspaper, and I did the news specifically. I wasn't a DJ. I did the news on our on-campus radio station, and that was really cool. And it helped me honestly realize that, I don't know if I want to do this, but I was able to do it for free to like just figure it all out. And again, I said this before, no school is perfect. Excuse me. And you need to remember that schools offer different opportunities that you can participate in. Excuse me. In order to make your time in college successful toward your professional goals. And just honestly, your overall well-being as a person. Because shoot, if you like to dance, by all means, join the dance team, please. If you love to read, find a reading club. I mean, really look at the clubs and groups that a school has and see how they'll benefit you holistically as a person before you decide on where to go to college. Now, I know I said a lot, but guess what? How quick was that? I'm done. I told you, lunch and learns are fast. But they're chock full of takeaways, right? I hope that there was a ton that you got out of this today. And if you learned something, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel here. And I mean, I do this with BGOC because I love it. Number one, I love to help African-American girls in any way I can. I mean, college is my thing because I'm just very passionate about school. But also, like I said, there are things I didn't know as a student. And I am very passionate about education because I know that that's the key to a lot of things for our community. So again, please don't forget to check out other videos here in the Lunch and Learn series. And if you find this type of content helpful and you're in the 11th or 12th grade, or you're a first-year student, again, first generation will be first generation, or you are a first generation in college already and you're first year, so a freshman, I invite you to join my membership community, College Knowledge University. I love it in there. You'll have access to me in a different way, just way more up close and personal, college admissions folks, and other professional experts that will make your journey into and while in college a success. The cost is nominal, and when I say nominal, it really is nominal. It's not anything that's going to knock you over the head. But by participating, the outcome is absolutely massive. So the link for CKU is also in the description box below. And you know what, if you're like, I'm not in any of those grades, or I'm not ready for CKU yet, join the On Campus Community. That's where I send out a weekly e-newsletter, and I do some other things in there sometime. It's all email for the most part. And there's various resources in there. I put in at least one scholarship that I'm 90% sure you haven't heard of. That's in there in the newsletter as well. So that link is in the description box below too. So just be sure to check the description box for just all the links, all the goodness, all of everything that I've said here, and some things that I haven't said, but still resources, free resources too, that I've created that I know will benefit you as a first-generation college student. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. Again, I hope that you learned something, and I look forward to seeing you on my next Lunch and Learn. Have a great day.